Today there are a lot of new developments in the Kursk direction. Here, Ukrainians have conducted a large-scale drone strike on Russian military airfields, severely impacting Russia's aerial capabilities. Moreover, Ukrainians immediately leveraged this success to initiate the first attacks in their westward offensive, pushing their forces closer to a decisive breakthrough. Firstly, Ukrainian officials stated that Russian forces had increased the number of glide bomb strikes on the Sumy region in Ukraine to approximately 40 to 50 strikes per day. Russians targeted various Ukrainian infrastructure in an attempt to undermine Ukrainian logistics and troop movements. Unfortunately for Russians, Ukrainians retaliated. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that they conducted a large-scale drone strike against Russian airfields in Kursk, Voronezh, Borisoglebsk and Savasleyka. The combined operation of the Ukrainian Security Service, military intelligence and armed forces targeted Russian air bases that were actively used to conduct glide bomb strikes from. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that the strikes targeted aircraft, repair facilities, fuel storage, and warehouses with ammunition, which likely indicates Russian glide bombs. Satellite footage of the Borisoglebsk airfield shows Ukrainians destroyed and damaged several hangars where aircraft were being repaired and maintained, along with one damaged and one destroyed Russian Su-35 fighter plane stationed out in the open. While no satellite footage of the other Ukrainian strikes has yet become available, local residents around the Savasleyka airfield reported hearing over 10 distinct explosions. Additional geolocated footage indicates that Ukrainians destroyed a MiG-31 supersonic interceptor here, able to carry air-launched Kinzhal ballistic missiles, widely used to bomb Ukrainian cities. This was not the only recent Ukrainian strike, as a post by a Russian journalist indicates that Ukrainians hit a Russian training base with HIMARS, as he complains that Russian forces still use training bases within Ukrainian striking distance. Additionally, Russian soldiers continue to be forced to gather in the open yard in the morning to wait to be addressed by their commander, making these Russian military bases an even more attractive target for Ukrainians. Russian sources published a video allegedly showing that they managed to track down and destroy a Ukrainian HIMARS system. However, Ukrainians have been using decoy inflatable mock-ups of high-value military equipment for years. A Ukrainian soldier shared a photo of such an inflatable HIMARS mock-up, seemingly at the exact location of the Russian strike, meaning Russians likely hit a decoy again. As you know from a previous report, Ukrainians had identified a weak spot in the Russian lines to the west and were preparing to strike. What makes this area even more challenging to hold for Russians is that it is entirely surrounded by Ukrainian forces from three sides and separated from the rest of Russian territory by a river. Notably, there are only 3 bridges over this river that Russians can use to resupply their forces here at Karish, Zvanoye and Glushkovo. Ukrainians understood this and over the last 2 days launched a series of strikes on these bridges, destroying them in the process. The Ukrainian Air Force released footage of 2 of these strikes, showing them finishing off the Glushkovo bridge after HIMARS had previously damaged it and destroying the Zvany bridge with a similar bomb. While no footage has yet been released of the destruction of the Karish bridge, Russian sources reported that the bridge was under fire by Ukrainian rockets and artillery. If you want to get access to the original uncensored footage of all Ukrainian strikes, you can find it on our Telegram channel by using the link in the description. With all the bridges over the Sumy River destroyed, Russian forces are now completely cut off from friendly reinforcements and logistics. While satellite footage shows that Russians have set up a pontoon bridge, even Russian military analysts know that this is pointless, as the new pontoon bridge remains well within Ukrainian artillery range and expected to be destroyed soon. With the bridges destroyed and Russians effectively cut off from their logistics, Ukrainians launched a reconnaissance in-force operation on the settlement of Tetkino to test Russian defenses and willingness to fight. Ukrainians quickly captured the western bank of the Sumy River in its entirety, as well as numerous positions in the town itself. On the western bank, Russians quickly retreated back to the settlement and blew up 2 minor crossing points as soon as Ukrainians launched their attacks. While this temporarily secured the Russian northern flank against Ukrainian assaults, the Russian southern flank remains completely open. This was also most definitely not the main Ukrainian offensive in this direction, as there were no heavy clashes, and Ukrainians seemingly only took up preliminary positions in the town to test the Russian strength. Additionally, the fact that Russians immediately retreated and gave up on their positions on the western bank indicates that Russians are not in a position to put up significant resistance and are likely to either surrender or be quickly destroyed by a more significant Ukrainian attack. Lastly, at the Russian 2024 Army exhibition, Russian developers presented a new electronic warfare system meant for helicopters. This comes shortly after Ukrainians destroyed 2 Russian attack helicopters with FPV drones during the Kursk offensive. The new Voronezh X anti-drone aviation system is supposed to protect Russian helicopters against Ukrainian drones by creating a 100-meter disruption zone around the aircraft. Interestingly, Ukrainians recently captured an intact Voronezh electronic warfare system meant for armored vehicles in the Kursk region. Ukrainians state that the manual captured alongside the system did not note any technical specifics about the system. However, as it was captured fully intact, it may be dissected and used for research purposes to find possible weaknesses that may be used to circumnavigate the effect of the disruption zone. Overall, these last few days were characterized by supporting actions in preparation for a larger offensive to the west of the current breakthrough. Ukrainians launched the largest strike on Russian military aviation since the beginning of the war to undermine Russian air operations that could endanger their coming offensive. Similarly, Ukrainians fully cut off Russian logistics to more than 30 settlements under the river. With the initial intensity of Russian resistance in Tatkino being small, Ukrainians will likely soon launch a second offensive and add over 600 square kilometers of Russian territory to their current gains. If you're against the invasion of Ukraine and you want to support the work that I am doing, consider making a purchase in the online store UA Supporter. Here you can find a lot of products with Ukrainian symbols to not only show your support for this channel, but also for Ukraine. The link to the online store is in the description. Thank you for watching this report, and I will see you in the next one.